This is a reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 12. Chapter 7, verse 12. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. So the title of this video is probably going to be something like, you don't need a clinical psychology degree to help people, or something like that. But I want to draw off an experience I had working a pretty intense summer job, which was basically at, I think, like a kid's psychiatric floor, but like also kind of like a summer camp. Most of these kids, it was kids like 10, 11, 12, who were like a step down. Like they had all just been at like psychiatric floors, like suicide watch kind of stuff like that. Scary stuff for kids. And then this is kind of like a place in between that and home, hopefully, where the kids stay there overnight, and it kind of runs like a summer camp / school, but there's still like heavily infused like therapeutic aspect. And all these kids are like heavily medicated on like antidepressants, stimulants at like 10, 11, 12, which is just, that's wild, whole other thing. But like psychiatric floor meets day camp. That's the idea. So I worked there this summer for 4 months. And when we were trained, there was a lot of training around the psychology of it. I'm studying psychology, thinking of going into clinical psychology or research after graduation. And we were trained a lot on trauma, on, how to interpret, recognize trauma in kids, how that changes their cognition, their behavior. And the interventions we were taught often surrounded helping them with coping skills like deep breaths, mini meditation, grounding, like muscle relaxation, like squeezing your fists and relaxing. We were trained like kind of interviewing the kids after something bad happens, like they flip their lid and scream at another kid and throw some chairs. And then after, it's supposed to be like, okay, like, what did you do wrong? What is something you could have done better in the future? So, I need my coffee. It was very interesting as I started this job, really using what I was taught, all these therapeutic, kind of like psychology interventions of like, hey, like choose some ice, use a coping skill, or this kid, almost hits another kid, like, hey, like, why'd you get so mad at him? What could you have done differently next time? And after a while, I sort of lost hope in a sense for these psychological interventions for these kids. Well, yes, some of them were helpful. For the most part, they didn't really seem to impact the kids terribly, especially in the short term. And while I still stuck with them, what I realized after a while at this job was that the positive impact that I was able to have on these kids, who again, they're living away from home, they're sleeping at this place overnight, and most of them come from broken homes in the first place, divorced parents, kind of messy situations. But the positive impact I had on these kids was not as much in the coping skills, therapeutic language, but was in just being kind to them. And I know this kind of sounds like a basic idea, but this was a job that required someone working 24 hours, as it was an overnight place. So some of the shifts would be tough, like 7:30 to 3:30, or like 2 to 10 or 11 at night, and then an overnight shift from like 11 to 8 or something like that. So the people that work there kind of got worn out. Like, these kids are very difficult to deal with. They're crazy, like just crazy shit that happened with these kids. God bless them all. But some of the people kind of got worn down and became like nihilistic towards these kids getting better, and just saw the job as a way to get a paycheck, which was terrible for the kids, because again, these kids are away from a loving and nurturing home, and as the adults, as like the staff, again, these kids are like 10, 11, 12, we're kind of like the parent figures. And, most of the staff kind of lost their, weren't very humorous with the kids. I mean, they could be at times, but a lot of them were sort of cold, like on their phones, and very like robotic with like instructions, therapeutic instructions, coping skills. Yet I realized that the most sincere positive impact that I was able to have on these kids was by just laughing with them, was trying to get them to smile. Again, they were 10, 11, 12. Some had like TikTok, 6, 7 jokes worked, brain rot, stuff like that. And yeah, again, I don't want to discount like fully the coping skills, the therapeutic stuff. I think that stuff is still has some point, and hopefully like later down the line, it was helping these kids. But at least, especially in the short term, like on a day-to-day basis, the positive impact was through a smile. The positive impact was being kind. The positive impact was treating these kids how I wanted to be treated and following the golden rule. So you may feel that it's very difficult to help someone, regardless of what situation they're in. Maybe they're deeply depressed. Maybe they're calling you literally suicidal. Maybe they are got in a terrible car accident and you don't really know what to say. You don't know like the therapeutic language of how to, dry out their past traumas and see what's going wrong and like analyze their psychology and all that. But you can laugh with them. Like you can make them smile and you can be there with them. And that's really what this job emphasized for me. That especially in the short term, and more frankly, an option that regardless of how much you know about, helping someone after a traumatic incident, psychology, training, stuff like that, you can smile. You can be human. You can treat them how you want to be treated. And you can make them laugh, like say some dumb shit, like try and get these kids to smile. In the end, when I left the job, I realized that was the best part I left on these kids was loving them. Seeing them like myself as children of God, engaging with them humorously and just being funny, and trying to lighten the mood for the terrible situation and terrible card these kids have been dealt. So yeah, I hope this example kind of helps of just giving you hope that like helping someone isn't always in your words. It can be in a smile. So worrying about, do I know enough to like help this person with this problem? Answer is probably going to be maybe no. Like someone's really depressed, like you're not a clinical psychologist. You don't really know what to say or how to help them. You can try to be like the therapist friend, but you can always crack a joke. You can always make them smile and try to bring joy and light into their lives. This is what we're called to do as Christians, to reflect the light of God, the light of Christ onto others. And it's simpler than you think, and it's pretty much always available. Hope this helps. God bless.